Tim Pool loses his mind when he gets into an actually crazily heated debate with Andrew Wilson. Hey guys, you're watching Bring the Asteroid. Make sure you like today's video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my personal channel, linked in the description, and let's get into it.
Not that far away, and we can look back on this broadcast later. Come November, chances are good Trump gets in, I mean, not Trump, Biden gets in, and Trump supporters don't really do anything. He concedes, and that's probably how it's going to go.
Again, I think you live in a movie. I think you think doing something is a guy standing up and saying, "I hereby declare," instead of 7 guys going out and being like, "Hey, can we make sure that any of those trucks coming in don't have the illegals? Because we've had a couple trucks come through here that did, and they've been transporting them. Now, I tried calling ICE, but they won't answer. So Jim and I are going to go out and
don't consider that a civil war. Just that would be low-scale vigilanteism.
So, right. And what precipitates civil war?
It would have to be some large segment of the population, that 5% or higher, who are doing some type of sedition or considerable treason, what would be considered considerable treason to the United States government. That would be, that is what I would consider to be some type of actionable civil warfare.
Just 5%?
Yeah, 10%.
What is it, 60%? 60%? No, it's like 70% of the Republicans think that the Democrats have already committed sedition.
Yeah, I'm sure that they do.
Right,
but
so
they're not acting in a way as though they have.
I think
that's the problem, right? If you think that somebody has truly acted in a way as to be a traitor, right? What do you do to traitors?
Sedition and treason are two different things.
Yeah, I know. But if you were to say that you think a person's acting in such a way that they're a traitor, what do you do to traitors? Last I checked, they get hung, right?
But treason and sedition are not the same thing.
Yeah, I know. But the point of my hypothetical is to say they're not acting in such a way as though these people, while they say you're seditious or they say you're treasonous, whichever one, they're not acting as though they are. They might say it, but they're not acting like it.
What does that mean, they're not acting like it?
Well, if somebody is guilty of sedition, that's firing squad. If they're guilty of treason, they get hung.
Sedition is not.
They don't get worked with.
Sedition is like maximum 10 years in prison, I believe.
Okay, fine. Well, they're not getting 10 years in prison either. But
well, that's the question of whether Donald Trump gets elected. The issue is conservatives overwhelmingly they're not revolutionaries. The question is, do we expect, with everything that's already happened, we're at the point now where since the beginning of this conversation with Donald Trump, they've accused the president of being a traitor. They've accused Donald Trump of being a traitor.
That's true.
They have acted as though he is a traitor. They cemented his feet so that he couldn't run his administration. They effectively levied legal war against him during his entire administration.
But you need a percentage of the American public who's acting in accordance with that against the system.
No.
In a physical way.
Wrong.
I don't think that's wrong.
Read a book.
I mean, just saying.
Every single instance.
Just saying, oh, 5 guys are running around with guns in some small scale incursion. That's civil. That's not fucking civil war.
And say it was civil war.
Well, that's what we're talking about, is civil unrest and civil war.
And what precipitates that is social breakdown when people lose confidence in their government.
I agree. That's what precipitates it. That's true. You have social breakdown. You have social cohesion breaking down.
So you're sitting here going,
but that doesn't mean that that's what it is. And you can also, you know what else you can get? Instead of civil war, you can get... instead of revolution, instead of civil war, you can have a renaissance too. Sometimes social breakdowns lead to renaissance. You forget about that as well.
Well, usually you get a revolution or you get a civil war. Civil wars will end with one power structure typically takes over. The outright destruction is rare. Someone always asserts authority. But you get a revolution when no one fights, or you get a civil war when someone decides to fight back. What we could experience is a communist revolution in the United States.
You could.
If the right does nothing. We are facing an election where we already know from 2020 no one will agree on the results.
True.
To then say, after this election, everything will be fine, I believe is absurdity.
Okay, so
I agree. I can't believe I'm saying this.
So I'll say this. I'll say this. No, I still have to disagree. This has been going on for years and years, where the American government has prepared for contingencies for civil war. This has been going on forever. And to be honest with you, Tim, you've been talking about the Civil War since long before I even got into online politics.
It's true. It's true. Tim Pool has been talking about it for years and years. It's like, okay, if it's imminent, where is it at? How long are you going to talk about how it's about to happen when it doesn't happen? It's kind of like people with with like global warming, climate change. The world's going to end in 10 years. It's kind of reminding me of that.
I was listening to you talk about, hey, this is right around the corner. It's coming soon to a theater near you. The stage is set. We're very close to it. and we weren't really that close to it. So the thing is like,
do you think January 6th wasn't a dramatic escalation of political violence?
I think that you could have a lead up over many years, over many years.
So I was correct. What did the SPLC accuse me of?
What do you mean? When did you
September,
predict Jan 6?
In September. I love this because it's in the lawsuits against me too. SPLC's written about it because in like September of or it might have been August of 2020, I said, if Donald Trump loses, you're going to see dudes showing up in D.C. They're going to lose their mind and storm the White House or something because they are not going to accept this. You're right. It wasn't the White House. It was the Capitol building. And then they wrote, Tim Pool had foreknowledge of January 6th, and here's proof because he predicted. No, it's because I read. And I said, wow.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Based on everything these people are saying and preparing for, they're going to go to D.C. and do something like this. And then they did.
Yeah, but I think if you say that the sky is falling enough times, just like Alex Jones, eventually a couple of those things are correct.
In 2018, when I said escalation of political violence is going to reach a massive tipping point, and then in 2020, they firebombed St. John's Church and the White House grounds, and they took over numerous cities, I predicted that. So to say, you've been saying for a long time it's around the corner, and every time you say something's going to happen, it does, but you're still wrong. Dude, I don't care if I'm wrong.
Well, it's not every time you say it that it doesn't happen. What I'm saying is that you've made the prediction so many times. I've heard it so many times on your show. Are we this close? We're this close to civil war. It's right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. And the real question is, what will happen when the civil war gets here? I haven't seen the Civil War, Tim. I'm going to be honest with you, and it doesn't look to me like the political will is there to do it. Now, January 6th people went quietly into the night, and nobody's really saying much about that either.
So the first thing I'll say academically is I don't know if you've ever actually read history books. Perhaps you...
And now he's going to insult Andrew Wilson, who's, by the way, is like the best debater I know, and say that he doesn't read history books.
Dude, perhaps...
A guy like me? Read? Yes, I've read history books. And
well, so when you read articles specifically about various historical periods, you realize that we condense it in our history books. And so when we talk about the rise of Hitler, people tend to forget that it's like 20 years through Weimar Germany leading up to this point where this guy rises to power. And so
the conditions were set for the Weimar Republic. We had massive inflation.
I think you're either being purposefully obtuse or you cannot comprehend basic facts.
Well,
and the intentional being intentionally obtuse is to say, I recognize that many different academics have predicted civil war, state that we're in civil strife. You said political violence is going to escalate. The Summer of Love did happen. You said in 2020 that a bunch of angry Trump supporters are going to go to D.C. and storm, the White House. It wasn't the White House, it was the Capitol building. You got that one right. And you've been warning about how these things lead to each other. And now today, as of today, because the Civil War didn't kick off at any of those time periods, you've been wrong to predict these things are escalating. The first thing is, when I say, hey, look, here's a guy who said this thing is happening, that's not me predicting it. That's saying a Princeton professor has made this prediction. A former CIA official has made this prediction. Numerous security advisors have made this prediction. Canada is saying it's improbable. So it's not necessarily a prediction, but they're concerned about its potentiality. Investors are now making this prediction. We are in civil strife. I'm not making that up, nor am I predicting it. I'm saying that's an assessment of leaders in politics, infrastructure,
and culture. Of some leaders, of some people, not of every. There's no united academia saying this is right around the corner, guys. That's not happening. You pull the sources that you want because they help craft your narrative, Tim.
And then when the Summer of Love happens, I was wrong.
Okay, so again, if you say the sky is falling every single day, eventually you get some keys of it right. But I've been hearing this from you for a long, long, long time. What have you heard from here? Again, I'll repeat it. I have listened to you long before I was ever inside of any type of political commentary. I was listening to you talk about coming civil wars, how this is happening.
What was wrong?
In the next few months, next few months, this could really set the stage between the states and this for a new civil war.
What was wrong? What was wrong?
They just didn't happen.
What didn't happen?
None of these civil wars that you.
What civil wars did I predict that didn't happen? What civil wars?
Well, I didn't come in with a list of all the times Tim Pool's predicted civil war, but dude,
okay, you're at the point
famous for it.
You're at the point where you've lost the argument and you're making things up.
What part of the argument did I lose?
You said that I predicted a civil war would happen at a period.
No, I'm saying that you talk about it constantly. Right. And I have not.
Was I wrong?
I haven't seen any of the evidence of this.
Summer of Love is not evidence.
No, it's not. There's no civil war, even from the Summer of Love. That's not a civil war.
When did I predict that the Summer of Love would lead to a June 21st civil war in the United States?
I mean, that's what we're talking about right now, though, is the leading. So when is this? So let's be hyper specific then. What area, what decade, next 5 years, next 4 years, next 3 years, do you think we'll see a civil war? Or is it something you're talking about that's 30 or 40 or 50 years down the road? Or do you just not know?
Literally, I've said, I don't know.
You don't know.
And so you made up that I predicted a civil war at a specific period.
No, I'm saying that that's all I've heard you talk about for years.
What was I wrong about?
Again, Tim, I didn't come in prepared to debate with you. Came in prepared to debate with Richard Spencer. But I'm happy to actually come in again, and I will bring a list of everything Tim Pool has been wrong about if you want me to from
I'm
failed
wrong about a lot.
Yeah, okay, well, then that makes my point.
But the idea that I would recognize me saying these things might happen and being wrong about it does not mean that I'm in general wrong about the bulk of what I'm saying right now. The issue is numerous academics articles have recognized the basis of what civil strife is. I don't care if we're looking for a national committee of recognizing civil strife. Civil strife is a period described as political violence, death caused by political violence, and increasing political instability. We can then assess everything that's going on and determine whether or not we think that's true, and everyone's allowed to have their opinion. But in 2018, when I said, hey, this political violence is going to get worse, and then it did. And then I said, man, I think if Trump loses, you're going to get a ton of these people on the right going to D.C. They're going to lose their minds. They're going to be like storming the White House or whatever. And then it happened. And so those are just two big examples where I'm like, X equals Y. I hope that doesn't happen. Where we're at now is all of these things are behind us. These have all happened. And I say, if you look at history and what these things tend toward, and when you look at what has been said 6 years ago and what it has tended toward and what has already happened, things don't bode well for us in November. And you go, no, we're fine. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's not what I said. So I
Oops, did not realize my mic was off. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is correct? I'm Team Andrew Wilson. I also know him personally. Well, personally meaning the internet. I love his wife. But yeah, let me know. Are you sick of Tim Pool, fear-mongering about a civil war imminent? Let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching Bring the Asteroid.